Okay, let's unpack this. When you think of New York City, what first comes to mind? For a lot of people, it's, the Statue of Liberty, Times Square, that constant energy, the feeling that anything's possible, right?
Yeah.
A global symbol of dynamism. But what if that image, that beacon of hope was, well, fracturing, slowly turning into something unsettling? We're not talking about some, total collapse. It's more complex. It's about a society splitting apart, enforced by tech, where opportunity becomes this tightly controlled thing.
That's exactly it. This deep dive, it's not the usual apocalypse story where everyone's in the same boat. The material we've been digging into, it paints this really different picture for New York, a much more insidious dystopia. It's this stark division. The sources actually call it a hyper-resilient, climate-proof utopia for a tiny elite. They label that the fortress.
Okay, fortress.
Yeah. And then, build right on top of that, systemically, is what they term a heavily managed, environmentally exposed, and psychologically besieged dystopia for pretty much everyone else. That's the Fringe.
Wow. Fortress and Fringe. And the really striking thing, you mentioned this before, is that it's not just wild speculation, is it?
No, not at all. The sources really stress this. It's not sci-fi pulled out of thin air. They frame it as a rigorous extrapolation based on real measurable trends happening in New York right now.
So it's looking at things like neoliberal capitalism, climate inaction, how we're using tech.
Exactly. How those current paths, if they continue, could lead us down this really alarming road. It makes you stop and think about what's unfolding around us, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah, so it's less a prediction, maybe, and more a profound cautionary tale about what happens if these powerful forces just keep going unchecked. Our mission here, really, is to explore how that split could actually happen, how it would be maintained by the city itself, and, maybe the most chilling part, what it would actually feel like to live there, inside the fortress or out on the fringe.
I've been going through all the material you sent over, and yeah, what gets me is how detailed it is, how specific this projection gets. So we're going to try and give you a shortcut to understanding what could be a very real future. And I'm really curious, as we go through this, what stands out to you listening, because there's a lot here that feels, well, both familiar and really unsettling.
Okay, so here's where it starts to get really concrete, right?
Yeah.
This divided future.
Right.
It doesn't just appear. The sources are super clear. It grows out of fault lines already here in New York.
Yeah.
Today.
That's the key. It builds on what exists.
And they point to two massive forces driving it.
Yeah, two main interacting forces. First, the accelerating impacts of climate change, relentless. And second, that huge widening gap of socioeconomic inequality. It's like they work together, these forces, almost like tectonic plates shifting, pulling the city apart.
And these climate impacts, they're not just possibilities, are they? The sources seem pretty certain. Yeah. The New York City panel on climate change, the MPCC, their data, the sources describe the forecasts as near certainties, not maybes. And New York is just uniquely vulnerable, isn't it? Population density, all that coastline, the aging infrastructure.
Right.
So these environmental changes, they're not just challenges. They become the main tool for sorting society. They literally reshape the city and decide who gets to be safe and who doesn't.
So climate as the great stratifier. What does that actually look like? What are the specific things that are pretty much guaranteed to happen?
Well, the sources break it down into three main hazards. They kind of work together, too. Extreme heat, chronic water inundation, think flooding, and these intense rainfall events.
Okay, let's start with heat. That one feels pervasive.
It is, and it's often underestimated compared to big storms, but its impact is massive and deadly. The projections are stark. Average days over 90 degrees Fahrenheit, expected to more than triple.
Triple. Wow.
Yeah, from around 18 days now to potentially 57 days by the 2050s. And heat waves, jumping from maybe 2 a year to as many as 7. Just imagine almost 2 months of 90-plus degree weather every single year.
That's not just uncomfortable. That sounds completely debilitating.
It is, exactly. It's not just about sweating. This kind of heat creates lethal heat islands, especially in underserved neighborhoods. Lots of asphalt, not many trees or green spaces.
Well, those are already the areas.
Exactly. They already correlate strongly with low-income communities, communities of color. So the physical environment, the very air and streets in poorer neighborhoods becomes a direct threat to mental health, physical health.
How so?
Well, extreme heat is already a top weather-related killer. Plus, it's linked to more aggression, violent suicides, higher admissions for mental and behavioral issues. Just living in that oppressive heat constantly. It's exhausting. It creates this background level of stress and irritability.
Your own neighborhood turning into an oven. That's terrifying. Okay, what about water? NYC is surrounded by it.
Right, and that's the double-edged sword, 520 miles of coastline. A huge asset, but also a massive vulnerability. Sea level rise projections are, well, pretty dramatic. Up to 39 inches by the 2080s. High-end estimates, 6 feet by 2100.
6 feet, that changes the map entirely.
Fundamentally, yeah. Chronic tidal flooding becomes the norm in huge areas. And think about the critical infrastructure down there. LaGuardia, JFK airports, power plants. All 14 wastewater treatment plants for the city, they're all in low-lying coastal zones.
So they're just constantly at risk.
Acutely vulnerable to that slow creep of sea level rise and the sudden shock of storm surges. We're not just talking about losing beaches, we're talking about the core functions of the city being knocked out.
So, Superstorm Sandy.
Yeah.
That wasn't a freak event, it was more like a warning shot.
A stark preview, absolutely, Sandy. 43 deaths, $19 billion in damages. The sources use it as a clear example of a future where those events are more common and more intense. These storms act like catalysts, right? They destroy infrastructure in vulnerable areas, displace people, and that just speeds up the social sorting. It's nature acting as this brutal divider.
Okay, so we have heat, rising water. What about rain? We've definitely seen some crazy downpours lately. That must add another layer.
Oh, absolutely. That's the third big one. Extreme rainfall. The New York region's already seen a 70% increase in heavy rain events, faster than anywhere else in the U.S.
Wow, faster than anywhere else.
Yeah, exactly. And the projections show the number of extreme storms could double again by the 2050s. Think about what that does to the infrastructure, especially the combined sewer system CSO, mixes stormwater and sewage.
Right, and when it rains hard.
It gets overwhelmed. Millions of gallons of untreated sewage just pour into the waterways, polluting everything, and critically, it causes flash flooding in the subways, on the streets.
Yeah, anyone who's been in the subway during a downpour knows those images. Literal waterfalls coming down the stairs.
Exactly. Remember Tropical Storm Ida? Those viral videos? That storm alone did $128 million in damage just to the transit system. The sources say that becomes normal. Predictable, even. It makes the subway unreliable, dangerous, especially for people who have no other choice, who rely on it most. Imagine wading through sewage water regularly just to get to work. And here's the thing, right? These climate pressures, they don't hit everyone equally, not even close. Climate change acts as this massive risk multiplier. It finds the city's existing weaknesses, its social vulnerabilities, and just cranks them up.
And the city's own studies show this.
Explicitly, yeah. The city's own vulnerability assessments consistently identify the highest risk groups: BIPOC communities, low-income residents, the elderly, immigrants, people with chronic health issues.
So the geography of who's vulnerable lines up almost perfectly with the geography of inequality. The places most likely to flood or bake are where marginalized communities live.
It maps almost perfectly. It's not random, it's a tragic reinforcement of existing disparities.
And the response, has it been equitable?
Well, the sources point out it's been slow and, inequitable. A decade after Sandy, billions promised for resiliency projects, still incomplete. Or the money that has been spent has disproportionately gone to protect wealthier areas. This isn't just bureaucratic inefficiency, you know. The sources frame it as a de facto policy choice.
A choice to protect some areas and not others.
Effectively, yeah. The slow pace of public protection compared to how quickly private money can build defenses. It basically designates certain communities as sacrifice zones. Your ability to adapt, afford AC, pay for flood insurance, build your own barrier, or just move, it comes down to wealth. Pure and simple. So climate change becomes this physical force that locks in the existing hierarchy. Social divisions turn into concrete walls and floodwaters. It's literally about who survives based on their bank balance.
So, okay, what does this mean for the social structure? The argument is this future doesn't invent a new system. It just hardens the one we already have.
It ossifies it, yeah. Hardens it, locks it in place. This pre-existing, well, the sources almost call it a caste system, defined by these massive gaps in wealth, income, opportunity. That's the fertile ground for this split future. It's like the system is already primed for it.
And the inequality numbers in New York are already pretty extreme, right?
They're staggering. They describe two totally different worlds living side by side, sometimes blocks apart. New York State, most unequal in the U.S. Top 1% earn over 44 times the bottom 99%. Within NYC itself, it's even more concentrated. The wealthiest 1% take home 44% of all income in the city.
44%, just for the top 1%.
Yeah. And that share has quadrupled in 3 decades. quadrupled. It shows this rapid polarization. It's not a gap, it's a chasm, a tiny sliver living in an unbelievable wealth, while most people's real incomes have basically flatlined or even dropped.
And the wealth at the very top, the ultra-rich. It's not just a gap, it's these huge sums, right?
Astronomical sums.
Yeah.
The ultra-rich in New York State, people worth over $30 million, they hold $6.7 trillion. Trillion. That's about a fifth of all that kind of wealth in the entire country. Concentrated right here.
Wow. One state, 1/5 of the nation's ultra-wealth. That kind of money buys a lot of influence.
Immense power, influence over policy, infrastructure. They can literally shape the physical city to benefit themselves.
And this economic divide, the sources say it's also deeply racialized. That is another layer of injustice.
That's a crucial point, and one of the most disturbing findings, frankly. Look at median household net worth in New York State. For white residents, it's about $277,000. For black residents, just under $19,000.
Wait, $277,000 versus $19,000.
Yeah, that's a ratio of almost 15 to 1, much wider than the national average. It points to these deep systemic barriers for communities of color, historical discrimination, ongoing stuff. It's not just income, homeownership. 63% for white New Yorkers, 24% for black New Yorkers. Generational wealth transfer. And here's a really telling, disturbing fact. That wealth gap gets wider with higher education.
Wider, even with a college degree.
Yeah. A white college grad in New York has almost 14 times the median net worth of a black college grad. So it's not just about individual effort, right?
Yeah.
It shows the system itself isn't a simple meritocracy. It's this deeply rooted structure of segregation, both racial and economic.
So you can literally see this inequality on the map.
Yeah.
In the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
It creates this geography of destiny.
Totally. Poverty and wealth aren't spread out evenly. They're intensely concentrated. The Bronx, highest poverty rate, 26.5%. Some neighborhoods there, like Mott Haven, over 36%. Then you look at Manhattan. Lowest overall poverty, 15.6%, but it also has the most extreme wealth and the biggest income inequality by race. Places like Hudson Yards, NoHo, Tribeca. Median home sale price over $3 million.
$3 million.
Yeah. And the average top 1% household makes $3.7 million a year. Their daily income is more than a family in deep poverty makes in an entire year. It draws a really clear map, doesn't it, of the future fringe zones and fortress zones. Your zip code basically dictates your future. It's already happening. And what's really powerful, and yeah, pretty chilling, is how the report visualizes this, uses real neighborhoods as archetypes, data-driven. They compare Hudson Yards in Manhattan, the ultimate fortress zone, with Mott Haven in the Bronx, the quintessential fringe zone. Let's maybe walk through some of those numbers because they really bring it home. It's not abstract.
Yeah, this is where it gets really specific. So median household income, Hudson Yards, over $200,000. Mott Haven, just over $20,000.
10 times the income, right there.
Poverty rate. Less than 7% in Hudson Yards, but over 36% in Mott Haven.
Vastly different daily lives, different struggles.
Okay, now the climate stuff. Projected days over 90 degrees. Hudson Yards is mitigated, protected, basically.
Yeah, green roofs, private cooling, climate controlled.
Mott Haven, 57 plus days. Heat island effect. The air itself is a threat.
Exactly. Then flood risk. 100-year floodplain exposure. Hudson Yards. Protected by private seawalls and elevated design.
So, built to withstand it. Mott Haven.
High exposure, minimal public protection. Basically left vulnerable. When the storms hit, one stays dry, the other floods.
And the infrastructure follows that.
Absolutely. Resilience. Hudson Yards. Privatized, redundant power, water, data, self-contained. Immune to public failures. Mott Haven.
Yo.
Aging, failure-prone public grid. So electricity for AC, clean water, it becomes a class privilege.
And the surveillance part is weirdly different too. Hudson Yards. High biometric access control. Sounds exclusive, high-tech.
Well, it's a perk almost.
Mott Haven. High predictive policing, public monitoring. Same tech, totally different purpose. Control versus convenience.
Exactly. Same tools, different intent. And the final metric, life expectancy. Projected over 85 years in Hudson Yards, under 75 years in Mott Haven.
A 10-year difference in lifespan, just based on where you live in the city.
That's the ultimate cost, isn't it? This extreme split isn't just economic or environmental, it's life and death. This bifurcation, this split, it's the essential foundation for that dystopian future. It creates this powerful elite with the means and motive to basically secede from the public and a marginalized majority without the power to stop it. It's a data-driven warning.
Okay, so we've got the foundations. Climate change, massive inequality. Now, how does this divided society actually get enforced? The sources say technology isn't the great equalizer here. It becomes the main tool of division, right?
Right.
Woven into the city itself.
That's a key part of the projection. The ultra elite, facing these threats, they don't just pack up and leave New York. Instead, they insulate themselves strategically. Their money lets them build these climate-proofed, self-sufficient enclaves, like mini city-states almost, functioning totally separate from the decaying city around them. It's a profound kind of secession. Not leaving the country, but leaving the shared risks of city life. The sources call it the architecture of secession.
So it's more than just building tall buildings, it's building fortresses. What does that architecture actually look like?
Aggressive self-preservation, yeah. Exclusion. New buildings are way up high, maybe 50, 60 feet above projected flood levels. Lower floors hardened, maybe retractable flood barriers. And crucially, private seawalls, huge levees, storm barriers protecting these coastal enclaves. Imagine the contrast. Inside, pristine parks, dry streets. Just outside the wall, the tide is creeping up. Public areas may be permanently flooded. A literal concrete line.
And getting in, how do they control access? Must be more than just a security guard.
Oh, way beyond that. Think seamless, high-tech barriers. Checkpoints aren't guys in booth, they're automated. Using advanced biometrics, facial recognition, iris scans, even analyzing how you walk, gait analysis. All cross-referenced instantly against databases of approved residents, vetted workers, guests. To even set foot inside the fortress, you have to submit your biometric identity to this private security system. It's partly about prestige, showing status, but mainly about absolute physical security, total control over who gets in.
Sounds like a privatized utopia, where even basic city services are handled privately, shielding them from the mess outside.
That's exactly it. It's a utopian illusion. Perfectly functioning, seamless, totally shielded. Achieved by privatizing everything essential, makes the failing public systems irrelevant to them. So each enclave has its own redundant infrastructure. Microgrids, renewables, backup generators for constant power, no blackouts like the Fringe experiences.
Wow.
Advanced water purification, closed-loop recycling for clean water, totally separate from the public supply. On-site waste management, incineration, or advanced recycling. No need for city garbage trucks. It's a self-contained bubble.
And things like security, fire, transport.
Yeah.
Also private and hyper-efficient inside.
Totally. Private security forces, highly trained, advanced tech, rapid response. Private fire, private EMS. Response times in minutes, while the Fringe waits, well, who knows how long. Transport. Dedicated networks of autonomous electric pods, maybe even private air taxis. They bypass the crumbling roads and subways entirely, never have to touch the chaos below.
Okay, here's where it gets really disturbing for me. By providing all their own stuff, they basically just check out of the social contract, right? It's not just physical separation, it's civic.
That's the absolute crux. Monumental implications. They have no reason to fund public systems anymore. Schools, hospitals, transit, sanitation, cops, fire. Their immense wealth and power. Used to lobby for lower taxes, deregulation, which just speeds up the decay of the public realm they've already left behind. They're taking care of, number one, ensuring their own hyper-privileged survival, and by doing that, they actively cement the abandonment of everyone else. It's engineered neglect, not just of the environment, but of the very idea of a shared society. So while the fortress is all about engineered resilience, the Fringe, huge parts of the Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, is defined by the opposite. Engineered neglect, it's not total chaos, not complete abandonment, it's managed, controlled, contained. The governing style is this creepy mix of bureaucratic indifference and all-knowing tech surveillance. The sources call it a smart sacrifice zone. People are kept alive, basically, but definitely not allowed to thrive.
So controlled decay, managed decline. What's the environment actually like? Living there day to day.
It's an environment of constant grinding decay. It becomes the source of psychological stress, this daily reminder you've been left behind. Low-lying areas are partly flooded, permanently. Abandoned buildings collapsing, crumbling structures everywhere, streets littered with trash, pollutants in the air from unregulated industry or waste sites nearby. The sources really emphasize this. The physical blight isn't just ugly. It drives stress, anxiety, depression, breaks down community trust. The environment itself becomes a tool of oppression.
And basic public services in the fringes? Are they just gone? Or is it worse than that?
They're skeletal.
Yeah.
And deeply dehumanizing. Getting essentials like weekly water rations from a truck or food supplement credits or a spot in a cooling center during a heat wave, it's not a right, it's a privilege. And it depends entirely on your compliance with the system, mediated through the centralized biometric ID system. Your face, your fingerprint, that's your lifeline.
So if there's a glitch or they decide you're non-compliant.
You're cut off, excluded from survival. It creates this total desperate dependency on a faceless, automated bureaucracy. No human appeal, no recourse.
What's really unsettling here is the control mechanism. It's not cops on every corner, but this invisible digital surveillance. The smart city turned into a weapon against citizens.
That's exactly the picture the sources paint. And yeah, it's chilling. A dense network of high-def CCTV cameras everywhere. But they're not just recording. They're running sophisticated software. Real-time facial recognition tracking you across the city. Gait analysis, flagging suspicious walking patterns, behavior analysis, even audio sensors think advanced ShotSpotter listening for keywords, tones of voice linked to unrest or crime. The city basically becomes a space with zero privacy. Every public act, every conversation potentially recorded, indexed, analyzed by algorithms, always watched, always listened to.
And this data isn't just for solving crimes after they happen. It's used to predict things, like a social credit score, almost.
Exactly. Preemption is the name of the game. The data streams feed predictive policing algorithms. It's not just about stopping crime before it happens, but stopping any kind of collective action or dissent. The system flags patterns, maps risk areas, profiles potential troublemakers. If you visit certain places too often, meet with other flagged people, say the wrong thing online, your social threat score goes up.
And that triggers
Automated consequences. Maybe your water ration gets cut, your transit access restricted, maybe an automated police drone shows up at your door. It creates this powerful chilling effect, right? On free speech, movement, association, any deviation from the norm is immediate risk. The goal is to manage the population, keep them atomized, isolated, exhausted, prevent resistance before it can even start. And the infrastructure itself, it stops being a shared public good connecting everyone. It becomes the tool that enforces the division. The selective decay of public systems isn't just neglect, it's an active part of this new order. The sources put it bluntly. The failure of the public system is the price paid for the success of the private fortress system.
So every critical network, transport, energy, water, gets split. 2 tiers. One for the fortress, one for the fringe. Let's talk subway. That's such a core NYC thing. How does that get divided?
The subway is maybe the most visible symbol. Already vulnerable to floods, heat. So the lines and stations crucial for the fortress, think Wall Street, Midtown, Hudson Yards connections, they get massively fortified. Billions spent on pumps, huge floodgates, advanced pooling to keep them running no matter what. But the lines deep in the fringe, largely abandoned. Chronic flooding, blackouts, stations crumbling, unsafe. Whole sections might just be shut down permanently. So the subway, once the great connector, becomes this fractured network that traps people in the fringe, cuts them off from the economic core, from opportunity.
And this deliberate neglect extends to basics like power and water too, making them tools of control.
Absolutely. The public power grid, already strained, becomes dangerously unreliable in the fringe, rolling blackouts, brownouts, especially during heat waves when you need AC most. Meanwhile, the fortress hums along on its private microgrids, so access to electricity for cooling, communication, pumping water upstairs becomes a privilege they can just revoke. Same with water. Fortress gets purified, recycled water. Fringe relies on the failing public system rationing, quality issues, maybe dependence on distribution trucks.
And the digital divide. In a city reliant on information, that must be just as stark.
Critical piece of the control system. Digital infrastructure mirrors the physical. Fortress gets redundant, super fast, secure fiber optics, the lifeblood of their economy. Fringe gets low bandwidth, spotty, and crucially state-monitored wireless. This does 2 things. Reinforces economic disadvantage, limiting access to info, education, jobs, and ensures all communication can be easily watched, stopping any organizing efforts. It's a total system designed to isolate and control.
Okay, so what does this mean for people living in it? Daily life. To really get this, we need to go beyond the tech and infrastructure. Look at the psychology, the lived experience. The sources suggest the most effective control isn't force, it's this constant grinding psychological exhaustion, an attack on the mind.
Yeah, if you connect the dots, for people in the fringe, life is this state of polycrisis. A constant barrage of interlocking stresses just wears you down. You've got the basic anxiety of poverty, food, shelter as the baseline, always there. Then you layer on top of that all these new systemic pressures.
Like what are those compound stressors? It sounds relentless.
Well, there's the environmental stress, right? The fear during a flash flood, the draining lethargy of an inescapable heat wave, that low-level eco-anxiety from living in a landscape that's visibly dying, toxic, then the psychological toll of the urban decay itself. hopelessness, powerlessness, shame from living amidst the crumbling infrastructure, the filth. And then layered over all of that, the surveillance paranoia, knowing you're watched, listened to, that chilling effect, forcing self-censorship, eroding trust even between neighbors, family, deep isolation.
And all that stress.
Yeah.
It must make it hard to even think beyond getting through the day, let alone organize or plan.
Profoundly hard. Psychologists talk about mental bandwidth, right? Your cognitive resources for problem solving, planning. Life in the fringe, the constant crisis mode, just drains that bandwidth completely. Long-term planning, political engagement, organizing resistance, those become cognitive luxuries few can afford. Your mind is just full trying to survive the next hour, the next crisis. Combine that with the automated, inescapable systems. It breeds learned helplessness. The feeling that nothing you do matters, the system's too powerful. That leads to apathy, social isolation, community breakdown, mental illness, depression, anxiety, PTSD becomes the norm, the baseline condition, a silent epidemic.
But the fortress residents, they're materially safe, but it's like their own psychological prison, isn't it? A gilded cage built on fear and disconnection.
That's the deep irony, yeah. The very existence of the fortress. The walls, checkpoints, security. It's built on this deep, abiding fear of the outside, of the fringe masses. That fear shapes their lives. Kids raised in sterile, controlled environments, interactions mediated by tech. Adults socializing only within their elite bubble in sanitized spaces. Their media constantly shows the outside as dangerous, chaotic, diseased. Reinforces why they need their isolation, their privilege, but this leads to its own problems. Social anxiety outside the bubble, a lack of real human connection, constant low-level paranoia about security breaches, contamination.
So safe but isolated, stunted almost. And this insulation, it must kill any empathy for people suffering just outside the walls.
Tragically, yes. Physical and informational barriers lead to emotional disconnection. Fringe suffering becomes abstract data points. New snippets, maybe an investment risk factor. The elites start seeing the masses not as fellow humans, but as threats to manage, resources to control, or just noise to ignore. Their lives, focused on comfort, curated experiences, preserving privilege, become kind of shallow, devoid of deeper meaning. In creating their perfect utopia, they sacrifice a core part of their own humanity, empathy, richness that comes from diverse human connection. They're walled off from being fully human.
Let's try to really picture this. The sources give these chilling day-in-the-life examples. Let's start with a fringe dweller, maybe from Mott Haven. What's their day like?
Okay. Day starts before dawn. Cramped apartment, Bronx Heat Island. Air's already thick, stagnant. Smells like damp concrete, maybe garbage. Power's out, scheduled brownout, happens all the time. Water's only on for an hour in the morning, a trickle from a communal tap. Family rushes to fill containers. Gotta get enough for the day. It's a frantic race just for basics.
And getting to work, not exactly a smooth ride, I'm guessing.
It's an ordeal.
Yeah.
A precarious gig job, maybe a logistics hub in Queens. Local subway station. Partially flooded from last night's rain. Gotta wade through ankle-deep murky water or walk blocks to another line that's still running. Trains packed, stifling hot cooling failed years ago. Smells like mildew. Just sweating through the journey, fighting the environment.
And at work, any better or just more control?
More control. Every move tracked by cameras, biometric scanners measuring productivity. Dip below the packages per hour target. Maybe from heat exhaustion? Doesn't matter. Automated wage deduction. Instant punishment. Lunch. Tasteless nutrient paste from a machine. Paid for with your thumbprint scan. Total control, crushing scarcity, no escape.
And heading home, just as bleak. More reminders of their situation.
Journey home. Maybe hear the hum of a police drone overhead on patrol. Red light sweeping. Constant reminder you're watched. Evening. Main info source is the state-run media network. Low bandwidth. Propaganda stream. Conserve resources, comply. News about capturing antisocial elements, dissenters. And maybe gleaming images of the fortress. Clean, orderly, prosperous. A world so close yet completely unreachable. Like the moon. It's psychological warfare, really.
Okay, now flip it. The fortress resident. Hudson Yards archetype. Their day starts completely different.
Completely. Simulated sunrise in a spacious climate-controlled apartment. Air's purified, perfect 72 degrees. AI assistant briefs them. Schedule, curated news, all positive. Investment portfolio performance, reassuring. Breakfast. Gourmet organic stuff, grown in the building's vertical farm. Everything optimized for peak performance, pleasure.
Commute must be seamless. Totally isolated.
Worlds apart from the fringe commute. 10 minutes, maybe. Private autonomous pod. Dedicated climate-sealed tunnels under the crumbling city. No exposure to chaos, no delays. Just efficient, silent movement in their bubble. Work. Managing automated systems, capital flows, state-of-the-art office, panoramic views of the green, resilient city core. Reinforces their control, their success.
And social life, just as curated.
Totally. Exclusive members-only wellness club in the building. Purified air, nutrient-optimized meals, biometric health tracking. The outside world, it's an abstraction. Newsfeeds show fringe chaos, carefully selected to justify their lifestyle, their security.
Any real interaction with the Fringe?
Yeah.
Really not much.
Hardly any. Maybe the only direct contact is with a heavily vetted domestic servant, and their movements inside the building are tracked by security. A fleeting reminder of the other world. Day ends. Maybe a VR experience simulated pristine nature, or a rooftop park gathering looking over the glittering fortress lights. And beyond the walls, the dark, silent expanse of the Fringe stretches out, a world they barely acknowledge. Total separation. Two realities in one city, utterly isolated. So this raises a really fundamental question, doesn't it? In a society that controlled this, divided this, monitored, how could anyone even resist? The usual story, the big heroic uprising. Seems, well, highly unlikely here. The system's almost perfectly designed against it.
It sounds almost impossible. What makes a big rebellion so hard, according to the sources? What are the main obstacles?
Yeah, the obstacles are huge. By design. First, the tech itself. That pervasive surveillance, predictive policing. It's built to detect and shut down movements before they start. Any group forming, any coded message, unusual travel, flagged instantly. Second, control over information. That low bandwidth, monitored network makes secure communication coordination incredibly difficult. Hard to spread ideas, build alliances. Third, control over resources. Food, water, energy, medical access. Compliance is survival. Non-compliance means immediate deprivation. Powerful coercion. And finally, the psychological state in the Fringe. Atomized, exhausted, trapped in survival mode. Just not conducive to the long-term risk of organizing. The system grinds down hope, fosters helplessness.
But the sources do offer something else, smaller scale. More about survival, preserving humanity, maybe? Not outright overthrow.
Exactly. If resistance happens, it's likely covert, decentralized, more subtle. One form could be technological sabotage, digital disobedience. The system relies on tech, that's its vulnerability too. Small groups, maybe ex-tech workers who know the systems, they could hack the surveillance grid, create temporary blind spots for movement, meetings, maybe spoof biometric data to help people move undetected, disrupt the bureaucratic systems controlling resources, divert aid briefly, not bringing down the system, but creating cracks, small pockets of freedom.
What about physical spaces? Places hidden from the digital eye? Could the city's underbelly offer refuge?
That's a compelling idea the sources explore. All that abandoned infrastructure, subway tunnels, sewers, old utility lines, derelict buildings, could become a new frontier. Off-grid communities forming in these hidden spaces, operating on black markets, mutual aid, outside state control, carving out physical autonomy in the shadows, a literal withdrawal from the controlled world above.
And in a world of propaganda, manipulated reality. What about just remembering the truth, holding on to memory?
That's maybe the most profound resistance for the human spirit. Yeah. When the system rewrites history, instills apathy, simply remembering is defiance. Clandestine groups preserving real history, documenting suffering, recording oral histories, creating forbidden art, music, writing, underground news contradicting the state narrative. It's a fight for the soul, for collective memory, for truth against erasure, keeping hope alive through knowledge.
And finally, something maybe less dramatic, but possibly the most powerful: human connection, mutual aid.
Indeed. Maybe the most fundamental resistance, the most resilient, deliberately rebuilding the social bonds the system tries to break. Small, tight community networks, sharing scarce resources, food, medicine, providing childcare, elder care, offering emotional support, these acts of care, solidarity, in a world built on isolation and despair. They're not pre-political. They are the foundation of a new politics, a politics of humanity, maintaining connection, compassion when the system tries to eliminate it, proving community can still exist.
Okay, so let's wrap up this deep dive. We've looked at this plausible, data-driven projection for New York. Not total collapse, but this stark split. Fortress utopia for the few. Fringe dystopia for the many. Driven by climate and inequality. And the chilling part is, it's not fantasy. It's presented as the logical endpoint of trends happening now. A possible future.
Yeah, and connecting this to the bigger picture, it's so important to stress, this isn't fate. It's not a prediction set in stone. It's an extrapolation, a warning. That's the point of this kind of analysis, right? to shine a light on a dangerous path so we can consciously choose a different one. The trends driving this wealth concentration, racial inequity, climate vulnerability, unregulated surveillance tech, these are policy choices. They are not laws of nature.
So, this incredibly bleak vision.
No.
It is preventable. What are the levers? What can actually be done if we want a different future?
The leverage points are clear. They lie in tackling those root causes before this architecture of control gets locked in. It means aggressive, equitable, immediate climate adaptation. Prioritizing the vulnerable communities, not just the wealthy ones. It means bold, systemic policies to seriously reduce economic inequality, close that racial wealth gap, rebuild a strong public realm where services are rights, not privileges. And crucially, it demands a democratic, ethical framework for new tech. Make sure it serves the public good, not corporate control or state surveillance. The future isn't written, but the blueprints for this specific dystopia, they're on the table. The challenge for all of us is to see them for what they are and choose, collectively, to build a different city, a truly shared city, before it's too late.